Hello guys, what is up? Welcome. Welcome back to the channel. For those of you that are new, hi, my name is Natalie and welcome back to the vlog. If you're seeing me in clothes that look very similar to my week in my life vlog, that's because they're literally the same clothes. My room is a mess. You're going to be able to see your reflection from my glasses, but we are going to have a very good talk today. We are going to talk about birth control. I'm going to be very open and transparent about my experience with birth control. Am I using birth control now? I have a topic of questions on my phone that I came up with myself with things I love to hear whenever I am talking about birth control. So we are just going to get on into this. So I have my little notes back here. Here are my notes. We are going to be talking about my IUD experience, birth control experience, and why I won't be getting another IUD or birth control ever again, probably. So I know of a lot of women who do like to hear about this and a lot who don't. If it's not your cup of tea, you do not have to watch this. I'm putting out to be informative of my situation and what I went through and what I'm currently going through right now and my own personal decision. So we are first going to start off with my birth control experience and how old I was when I got my IUD. So I first started birth control when I was 18, almost 19 maybe. I really couldn't tell you right on time, but think about it. I am now 22 and just got my IUD removed. But I remember having irregular periods all throughout high school, maybe a little bit more towards the end of high school. I had 1 month where I didn't have a period for 3 months, and I had months where I'd get a period, and it would kind of come and go every month or so, or they were just super long. So my solution was to get on birth control. I knew from my sister and my mom, and I have 3 older sisters, that birth control can help regulate periods. I was going into the healthcare field at the time, so I was a little bit knowledgeable of what it does to help regulate your period, but not to the full extent. So I first started on the birth control pill, which is known as I think it was the Nikki pill, maybe. I used that. I wanted a low hormone pill, and I got that. And it was good until it wasn't. I am not good with taking pills. I will be the first one to tell you before anybody comes at me. Yes, I know the purpose of a birth control pill is to take it. I am not good at taking pills. So I took it for about 4 months, and every single month I'd miss 1 pill. When I would double up on that pill to resupplement it, I would throw up and I'd be sick for a while. So that was problem number 1. So I decided, I'm like, I need another solution because this is not doing it. I cannot get sick. I'm getting ready to go through nursing school. I can't deal with this. So I looked at methods that I didn't have to keep up with them every single day. It could be every few weeks, every few months, or every few years. Some of my options, I looked at the Depo-Provera shot because my mom suggested it. The Nexplanon, which is the arm implant, and the IUD. So whenever I was looking at all of these and talking to my OBGYN, she was just telling me, Depo-Provera is 2 years and you're at very high risk for osteoporosis, which is the kind of like softening of your bones. It decreases your bone mass and the durability of your bones. So I said, no, that one's out. I don't really want to do shots every 2 months, whatever. And then my sister had the Nexplanon. I watched the insertion. I said, this is not for me. And plus it was 3 years. At first I was kind of between the Nexplanon and the IUD. But when presented with the options for the IUD, I was like, the IUD makes more sense. So IUD stands for intrauterine device. Like I said, this goes in your uterus, so it's going to go up your vagina in your uterus. It's not going to sit in your vagina, it's going to go up in your uterus. So they had a 3-year option, a 5-year option, and a 10-year option. I went with the 5-year option because it made the most sense to me. My gynecologist suggested, if you're going to go through putting it in, I would suggest you get it for more than 3 years, especially how young you are, because it can be a little invasive putting it in. So I knew the 3 and the 5 year were the hormonal, and the 10 year was non-hormonal. 10 years was too long for me, so I said 5 years is fine. I ended up getting the Kyleena, and that is supposed to be a low hormone compared to the Mirena. And yeah, that's how I decided whether I wanted the IUD. I got my IUD when I was 19. I remember the time my husband and I started dating, which was during 2020. I got it inserted 2 weeks after we started dating, and it was an experience. So with my insertion experience, I remember leading up to the insertion experience, I had an appointment 2 weeks before the insertion, and then the insertion. So 2 weeks before, they do your normal urinalysis to make sure you are not pregnant. all things like that, and let you know the procedure. The day of the procedure, once again, they do your analysis because, you know, if they do it, they've had it happen. Just to make sure that nobody is coming in pregnant trying to get an IUD because of the risk. I remember telling my gynecologist I get really nervous with medical procedures because I don't get a lot done. So it does make me nervous of what bad could happen, what bad things could happen. And they ended up giving me some anti-anxiety medicine. Didn't do a thing. Did not do a thing. I get in there and they lay me on the bed and put my legs in the stirrups. I kid you not, the whole time my legs were in those stirrups, they were shaking. Like I had, oh my gosh, it was bad. It looked like I was Shaggy from Scooby-Doo. So once they did that, what they do is they have the insertion device. Of course, this is all sterile because it is going in you. They have the insertion device that has the IUD in it. What they do is they stick it in, they measure the length of your uterus because they want to know how far they need to go in, where it's going to be at, making sure it's not too low, not too high, just because they don't want it to be too low and for it to fall out, or too high and it puncture through the uterus. So when they measure, I felt a little cramp, pulled out, saw, put it back in, and inserted it. And there's like a little button that they insert it with, and I could just feel it. And a cramp hit me immediately. I know some people would have passed out. I felt like I was going to throw up. I had an instant rush of heat come through my body, and I felt like I was going to throw up. Had a little bit of spotting after, but the days after were really where I had a little bit more spotting. I was bleeding more, but because it was a little bit more invasive, I felt weird after getting it. I was like, okay, like, do I rest? Like, what do I do? Within that weekend, I was fine. And I have had it in since then. Now, I am on year 3 of my IUD. I technically would get it out, I want to say next year. Next year or the year after next. So I'm on year 3 of my IUD. And this is where the problems started coming in. So common problems that I have had with my IUD. When I first got my IUD, my periods were pretty regular. Yes, my cycles are probably 32 to 33 days, but they were pretty consistent with the time of the month that I got my period. I always knew what time of month I would get my periods, so I could stay with the T on it. I have noticed the further I got into having my IUD, the more problems I had. I had a lot of bleeding, postcoital bleeding, and I was just having a lot of infections and like intrauterine infections, things like that. And recently, I think it had been like the beginning of this year, the end of last year, more so the end of last year, I did not have a period for 2 months. And when I went to a physician about it, they kind of blew me off and they said, you know, that happens. Your period disappears. How long have you had it? I was like, I've had this thing for almost 2.5 years. Oh, well, that's normal. And I'm like, well, nobody explained to me that was normal. I did not know that. I thought it would disappear in the first year, but I guess it makes sense because of the way your body becomes used to the IUD. But I was just sitting there and I was telling my husband, I'm like, I cannot sit here and experience missed periods like this. I cannot go through the cramping pains that I have with these missed periods because they were worse than the initial cramps that I was getting with my normal period, rather than a missed period and a late period. So I remember trying to get an appointment for the IUD. Removal was hard in itself. I'll be very honest with y'all. I'm going to tell you guys about my experience of trying to get it removed. I remember going in, telling them I do not want any other form of birth control, told them that on the phone, and apparently they did not document that. Went in, and I proceeded to get a lecture by my physician on how I need to think about my decision of wanting to start a family within the next year to 2 years because kids are expensive. Yes, I understand, like, I'm a nanny, I have nephews, I have done some things for them, and like, I get it, it's not to the full extent, but I didn't even go into even more information. So it took me about 4 months to get an appointment to get my IUD removed. I had it scheduled for February 14th. That was as soon as they could get me in, and probably the next available until the summer. I go in to get it removed. No, almost same procedure as when you get it out, except I'm used to being up and down out of that chair because I've gotten pap smears before. I get yearly checks just to make sure it's still in place. My physician is not able to pull it out. She's like, cut the string short. After that appointment of trying to get it removed, they ended up referring me to the gynecologist. So at the end of February, so exactly 14 days later, I ended up getting my IUD removed through the gynecologist, pulled it out, saw it as an itty bitty little IUD. It's hard to believe that that was in there. And I have been without an IUD for exactly a month now. How has my life looked post-IUD? Very emotional. All I have to say is I have been super, super, super emotional. I still have not had a period yet, and I'm not pregnant. And I say I'm not pregnant because I have taken pregnancy tests just to make sure I'm not pregnant. But I am dealing with trying to balance my hormones, so I get surges of sadness, anger, things like that, and just managing, you know, my weight, because weight gain is real post-IUD removal. Managing what I'm eating and staying active, things like that. I actually just ran a 5K this past weekend. It was really fun. A lot of questions I get when people find out that I got my IUD removed is, will Matthew and I be trying for kids anytime soon? Honestly, that is up to God when we have kids. I told Matthew I am down to try beginning of next year, but at the time my dog is sneezing on me. The time I'd really love to try is by next summer. It'd give me time to get my hormones re-regulated and just figure out, like, my own hormones before they get even more out of whack with the child. Kids are not out of the books for us, but I'm not exactly sure when we will start trying for kids. But I think getting an IUD out is the first step. And my husband, you said that is step 1 is you getting your IUD out. We can go to step 2 when that time comes. Will I ever get on birth control again? That is a question to be determined. I personally do not want to be on birth control again. I think I did not have a very good experience because of my body. I naturally have stomach issues. But this was a whole different realm of pain and discomfort and everything else, and just really not doing what I was hoping it would do for my body until it kind of felt like it was too late. Maybe in the future, if I absolutely need to, like if we are trying to put a pause in between having kids, but at the moment, no, I do not plan on getting on birth control again. And if that means we have a kid unexpectedly, and soon after that kid we have another kid unexpectedly, so be it. I really hope you guys enjoyed kind of hearing my birth control story. I know I tend to talk super fast, but that is just my personality. Like I said, I really hope y'all enjoy this and kind of get a little information on my perspective of what my body went through, and gives you some insight as to whether or not it might be a good idea for you or whether it's a hard pass. Like I said, it affects everybody else differently, individually, because everybody has a different body. But I hope you all have an absolutely amazing day and enjoy this video, and I will see you guys next week with my new post. Bye, guys.